Hi, my name's Art Matheny, and I'm a pastor, and I'm an extrovert. And I have been really struggling, maybe you have too, with this social distancing. Maybe if you're an introvert, or maybe you enjoy kind of hiding out a little bit. But for me, and even I think we're at day 3 so far, I'm really missing getting to see people. I've been sitting with this and even talking to God a little bit about it, about social distancing. This new reality that many of us are living in. I know the church as a whole is trying to reform itself and understand itself in some ways, because we're a community of faith. We're called out ones to assemble. And so that's what church is, a gathering of the community. And there's just an odd sense when we're only digital, only. But I'm sitting with this social distancing and with God, wondering and knowing that God isn't socially distant. He's always present and close. Closer than I know. But also I'm thinking about this in the Apostle Paul. We're going to be looking at the book of Philippians. We're going to be walking through that for the next several weeks in these short little devos. And I've been reading, and as I'm going into this, if we look in the book of Acts, chapter 16, this is when Paul shows up to this town called Philippi. And when he shows up there, God does some amazing things. He begins to talk to people about this love that's come through from God, from Jesus Christ, and this fulfillment of the scriptures, and how he loves them. And they can respond to God right now. Like it's one of these amazing things. And God starts stirring in their hearts, and they say yes, and they respond. And it's just great that it's just this community is coming together, and they're all a hodgepodge group of people that don't fit anything else. And there's no reason for them to socioeconomically be together, and they are. They are. And this is beautiful things happening, and then adversity happens. It always happens, right? Adversity happens, but God's still in that. And so what happens is Paul and Silas are seen as ones who are stirring up trouble, which Christians do, honestly. They did a justice action and helped a young girl. And what ends up happening is it comes back on them. And so they're thrown into jail. But not only that, they were beaten with an inch of their life almost. Flogging is serious stuff. Beaten really badly and whipped, and then they're put into prison. And the text tells us it's around midnight, and it says that they're beaten, that they're in the inner cell, so it's probably the darkest place, and they're actually, their legs are in stocks. They can't even move around. I mean, they're just there. Can you imagine that? Like your back is just cut up and beat up. You've been beat with an inch of your life. You're laying there, or your legs are stuck in stocks. You can't move around, and you're sitting there. What do you do? What Paul and Silas did is the most ridiculous, weird thing you would think. They're singing. They're praying. They're praising God. And what captures me and what my thoughts have been around is this idea of social distancing. They were not that distant from the prisoners who were right next to them. There were walls there, but those walls, they may never even seen these guys before. It's like more than the Masked Singer. Like they have no idea who these people are behind that, right? But what happens is as they are singing and as they are praising, they don't know who's behind that wall or behind that mask, but they know this. They know that whatever they got, I want. They were listening, the text says in verse 25. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Something that's so important to remember is that as we are living our lives with God, others are listening or watching or perceiving. And sometimes we think about, maybe even in social distancing, this struggle of saying we're not connecting with people, and we really want to show God's love in some practical way and even talk about God maybe sometime. But what the reality is this, that if God is the center of your life, and if you, whether it's through adversity or anything else, you will glow, you will shine. And that's what they were doing there. They were in the midst of this prison. They were shining. We're going to talk about that later in the book of Philippians. But they are there, and they're singing and praising, and the other prisoners took notice. I want to encourage you that even in the midst of social distancing, God is not socially distant from you or the persons around you. God is intimately closer than our next breath. And I want to encourage you that your lives attentive to God in this moment, singing and praising maybe in the most odd situations in the midst of adversity, will show others, not because you're trying to show them things, just because you love God. And what's going to happen is when God does something amazing like he did a couple, just the next verse, where earthquake happens and all the doors fly open and everything's like, wow, when that happens and people's lives are shaken to the core, they're going to go, I know that person. I know that one loves God. I know they're alive with God. And whatever they have, I need, because my earth and my world is shaking right now. We have a great opportunity in the midst of this, this pandemic that's going on to live in ways that are full of compassion and grace, and to live not because I'm watching somebody else, but because I'm so full alive with who God is. And in doing that, God will give us places to witness, to be witness. God never leaves himself without witness. And he will do that through the Holy Spirit, through us and others. And when others see that, they too will respond to the way the jailer did and all the prisoners, and this hodgepodge group of Christians did in Philippi almost 2,000 years ago. That group, in the midst of adversity, leaned into God, and God did amazing things. I encourage you, wherever you're at today, to lean into where God is already present. I want you to be so enamored with God, sing to God, find God, listen for God, pray to God, wherever it is, especially if it's adversity. Because I believe in those moments, in that time, who you love and who loves you will be made known to more people than we could ever imagine. Grace and peace as you do that the rest of the day. Bye for now.